the strings louder.
Shit's loud. Should we tell them where we're at? Should we explain? Well, I think we have how many hours left?
Oh man.
6 hours and 50 minutes. Alright boys, so we are in Dalhart, Texas. I've been driving for like 4 hours or so. This truck gets really bad fuel mileage. Been getting about 10 towing this thing. So we got the Civic in the trailer, and we have the Audi V10 and transmission in the back of this thing. So we're actually taking this thing to Dallas Performance, which is in Dallas, you know, based upon the name, but they're known for twin turbo Lamborghinis, a bunch of crazy stuff like that. So I know one of the guys that's kind of working over there, and we're bringing this thing over there and we're gonna tear it all down. So that's about it. It's my turn to time travel. So I'm gonna hop in the back seat and I'm gonna wake up probably further than Amarillo. Probably wake up almost in Dallas is what'll happen. So I get to take a nap down here, and they're, Dave and Ty, they're gonna continue the drive. So we just got here to Dallas Performance. Well, actually we dropped the trailer off a little bit ago and we ran over to the Waffle House because that's just like in a Texas essential.
Absolutely.
So,
and it's a travel essential. Road trip.
Yeah, so if you guys can't tell, there's some cool things just like poking around over here. And they, oh look at David! And they like keep popping up. So we have something similar to that, but it's just broken. And it's in the bed of the truck. So they're coming around with the forklift right now, and we're gonna pull it out of here. And so basically what we're gonna be doing today is tearing it apart with Dallas Performance, kind of going over it with their engine like builder guy, kind of see what is up with it, and then try to get an idea on how much this thing is gonna cost me. So we are inside Dallas Performance with Eric, the man himself. He is like a Lamborghini wizard. Would you consider yourself?
Actually, I would with the beard and all. I guess I am kind of a Lamborghini wizard.
You guys should have seen how fast. Well, you guys probably did see how fast he took this transmission off of here. He had like the perfect length chain, like, and he bagged it up. Where do you have that chain?
Yeah, I do.
Where's the chain at? So he has this chain for the transmissions, and he like bags it up with the correct bolts and everything, and he just pulled it out, like bolted it on there, and it just was perfectly level. Like it just hovered right out of there. So so Eric, he's gonna be helping us tear this thing apart and try to figure out exactly what went wrong. What are your kind of suspicions so far that we see?
The oil smelled a little bit burnt as we were pulling off that power steering pump, and then just kind of getting a feel for the engine. I noticed it wouldn't rotate like you guys were mentioning before, so I'm assuming there's some sort of issue that's keeping the engine locked up. I'm assuming it might be some kind of bearing damage with the smell of that oil, but I guess we'll find out whenever we get inside and see what's going on in there. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to kind of see what I mean, I'm actually not excited. I wish we didn't have to tear it apart, but I think I came to the right place. So what type of stuff do you do around here? Well, I oversee the projects. I'm considered the shop foreman, actually. Oversee all the projects, kind of make sure everyone's got their parts, kind of coordinate what the technicians are going to do in the different departments. As you saw before, we have a CNC department, we have a fab department, we have a transmission department, so I do my best to coordinate with all the department heads to make sure every project is going as smooth as possible. And then kind of step in and do stuff here and there. Exactly. So I'm the oldest one here, so I've done it all, so then I just don't have time to do every single car here. So.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, you guys have some, as you guys see, there's tons of, I mean, all it is in here is Lamborghinis. Like literally that's all you guys work on.
Yeah.
And I was asking if I could pull in the Civic a little bit ago and they started looking at me weird. But yeah, so we're gonna start tearing this thing apart. I guess what is the first process? Like just intake manifold, pull off the heads, or?
Yeah, you guys showed up without the exhaust manifolds, which is awesome, and no wire harness. So the first thing that we are gonna do is pick it up a little bit higher and start stripping off all the accessories from the engine. And we just kind of start from the outside of everything and then go in. It is, but that's the manufacturer of it. This material is better than the organic material that the stock ones come with.
Okay. So it's had a clutch at some point.
It has absolutely had a clutch at some point. And they didn't go for the cheapest clutch available.
Yeah, that's good. But it probably won't last if we...
No, with the kind of hot spots that I'm seeing here, someone was definitely driving the car aggressively. And I would absolutely replace it, especially on an E-gear car.
Yeah. Well, if I swapped it to a manual, would it like, I could kind of baby it for a little while, or is it at that point it just makes sense to just throw a new one in?
At that point it makes sense to throw a new one on there. If it were already a manual car, I could tell you take it easy, let it break in, and then you could drive it for quite a few miles before you had to replace it. And then at that point you could also decide what type of clutch you want to put in it based on your driving style and how the car behaves.
And how much power too.
Exactly.
So how crazy we want to get. That's the slippery slope. It's like that. I was even doing that with my Honda. It's like you start looking at stuff and you're just like, man, I'm gonna do pistons, and then I'm gonna do rods, and then you do this, and then you do that, and then you do that, and it's just like this.
And your gut instinct is to spend the most money to buy the most expensive part possible and put it on the car, and it's almost never the case that that's the best choice for you.
Yeah, and
you always want to put everything in very balanced.
Yeah.
And in this case with this car, I would put an upgraded factory style clutch in it. I wouldn't go any further than that. You'll be absolutely fine, absolutely happy. The clutches that come in these cars are good clutches.
How much can let's say like a fresh factory clutch, like power wise?
It depends on your driving style, but we've had guys that make 800, 900 horsepower on a relatively stock clutch and drive it around normally, race it every once in a while.
So like this one, like a kind of halfway upgraded, if it was fresh, you'd be able to get away with it.
Absolutely.
For a little while.
Once again, just depending on your driving style and how much you're in that, putting your foot into it is really what's going to make the difference.
I mean, probably all the time. So we got the heads off of it. Well, actually, these guys got the heads off of this thing. And what do you think? What do you see so far?
Well, now that we got the heads off, we can kind of see what's going on in the cylinders, which tells us a lot about the, I guess, life of the engine and kind of what's been going on. On all the pistons, we see a little bit of a buildup, carbon buildup and such. This is a DI motor, so they do run a little dirtier. They don't have the advantage of having fuel wash out, you know, the intake runners. I did notice when we pulled the plugs, and this further confirms it, that both back cylinders seem to be consuming oil. We can tell a lot of that by the cleanliness up here, and then obviously the sludge that it started manufacturing due to the oil, and then the block sleeve. I mean the block. Sorry, let me say that. Actually, yeah, but really the block cylinder. All right, let me start over.
Right, go ahead.
So we can tell that by the oil sludge, which is oil, and then the bore of the cylinder that's been breaking down by the rings not doing their job.
Yeah, so you can see all these ones are fairly clean.
Oh yeah, these actually look in really good condition. I don't feel any sort of scoring.
It's weird because they don't even have like a crosshatch in them.
No, and sometimes you see that on factory cars when you pull them apart, that they don't have strong cross hatching from factory, and a lot of that's gone by the time that we open them up. And then this cylinder, same thing. This one, since it happened to have locked up in a lower position, we can actually see and feel the damage inside this cylinder here.
Yeah, you can see the scoring in the cylinder walls.
Exactly, which is allowing oil to go past the rings. They can't do their jobs.
And we're kind of assuming that this other piston over here looks similar to that because
Absolutely.
the plugs looked about the same on each side.
She's locked up and won't let us look at it right now. We'll just have to see that later on.
Okay.
We also got to take a look at the heads a little bit. They both look like fairly good condition, just used heads, and then both the back heads showed the same indication. We got a lot of cleanliness here, obviously oil residue, even wetness of oil where it was consuming oil.
But the valves, like the valve train, nothing was locked up
No,
as
nothing
far as
was
the
locked
head.
up. Everything is actually in decent condition, and it just looks like a used valve train.
Which is good, because heads are expensive.
Heads are expensive.
Heads are very expensive.
Don't replace any metal that we don't have to.
Exactly. So I guess what is the stage after this?
So now we've really utilize this table to finish, and we need to move forward to putting on an engine stand. So we will pick it up, put it on the engine stand so we can flip it over and start on the bottom side after we pull the timing cover, which is going to be messy, so we need a cover underneath it.
Well, sweet. Yeah, I guess next step, engine stand, and then we get to actually see how the crank and rods and how everything looks in the bottom end and see how much salvageable stuff is down there. It's nice that the heads are good though, because I knew that was going to be expensive. The blocks are expensive. There's not a rod hanging out of the side of the block that we see yet. And so as long as the crank could be turned, or we might need a new crank, or we'll see. We'll see when we get there.
When we get in there. So far, I'm happy. We haven't seen any catastrophic damage or anything like that. So far, good news.
All right. right, so we got the block completely torn down. So what do you think?
Well, pretty close to what I was expecting. We have some rod bearing damage. We have to assume that it had some sort of oiling issue. Maybe someone didn't change the oil on time, kept running it. And as you can see, a lot of heat, a lot of damage. That's cylinder number 5 and cylinder number 10 in the back of the engine.
And so you can see like the coloration too. So you can see how this is just dark black, whereas these front ones, they're kind of like that coppery, kind of goldish looking stuff, which is what you want, versus this, whereas it kind of cooks the metal, cooks all the, like a lot of properties and stuff out of it too.
We've got so much heat in there that it almost starts welding the metal to each other, and that's where we get all this.
And that's pretty much what happened to this bearing, even on the back of the block. Like that's one of the main bearings for the crankshaft. That's welded, and you guys literally had to like almost tap this thing and fight this thing to get it out of here.
Yeah.
Whereas normally like a crank just like sits up and down. There's a little bit of, I guess, damage kind of
a little heat damage in there where it's kind of melted some of this metal here. This is all stuff that we can absolutely clean up and reshape. We would go through and line hone this anyways to get it back up to our specification.
Yeah, so I guess what is salvageable out of this? Basically the block, the girdle, and the heads?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all of this stuff is cleanable and machinable, so we can get it back together. The crank, we would not reuse a crank like this. We would recommend that you replace the crank. In a scenario where we pull them apart, we would always replace the rod bearings anyways. In this scenario, we would replace at least these 2 rods, depending on what you or the customer in that scenario would want to do. And we can replace them with factory stuff. Even if we're going to go in here and add a twin turbo kit, this is plenty strong enough to add a bolt-on turbo kit once it's
so you're saying like
properly.
You can make, basically 800-ish thousand on factory, almost 100% unopened engine. On these type of things, like yeah, with one of your stage 1 kits. So
absolutely, yeah, that's not a problem at all. This is a very over-engineered, amazing engine in the first place. And in a scenario like yours, now that we're going to sort of freshen it up and not only make these repairs and freshen up the engine, we can use our own specification with regards to clearances and the bearings that we're going to use, which will make this engine even stronger than it was, even though we're still utilizing all the stock parts. And it's going to function like a stock.
Yeah, so you could either like loosen it up a little bit, and run actual,
exactly,
a little bit looser clearances, obviously for like piston ring gaps and all that stuff for a little bit more boost. Add some different fasteners and stuff in there, maybe like some ARP stuff. I don't know if you guys do those on builds or.
Oh yeah, we do.
So yeah, you can just do simple stuff like that. So it is nice to know that the actual block is good, the heads are good, but again, these crankshafts are really expensive. So if you guys know anybody with a crankshaft, let me know. I'm bugging Goon Squad about it, but I think
I'll take a few also.
So yeah, we're gonna try to source a crankshaft, and I think you guys have some pistons and rods.
Yeah,
and
we've
stuff.
got plenty of this stock stuff laying around. We can absolutely go through and machine them, weigh them, balance them, and get them all set up for you and get this engine back on the road.
Yeah, because you guys do some crazy stuff here. Can we go take a look at the machining and the CNC stuff that you guys do?
Sure.
All right, so they got some super baller billet intake manifolds that they build all in-house. And then over there they have a basically CNC machining like cylinder head. So they do all their own cylinder head porting and everything in-house. You can see right here there's some more intake manifold parts. I don't know what that goes to, but it looks really cool. And then some billet blocks. So the billet blocks is what's just insane. So you can see Dallas Performance billet blocks literally built in-house. And then over here they have on this machine, this is one of the ones they're running the intake manifolds on, the billet intake manifolds, which those things are crazy. All right, so this is another room where they have a lot of other machines. So this right here is a crankshaft, basically balancer machining thing where you could actually kind of cut a little bit of it off of there, get it all balanced and in check. This is one of their billet blocks. This one already has the sleeves and everything installed in it. You can see they have the groove cut right here on the top, so you could actually have the O-ring blocks. And these things, that's just like a piece of artwork. That's just insane. And this is a basically where you hone them, you could bore them, do all that type of stuff, and they do all their own sleeving in-house here, which is really crazy. And that was one thing that we were talking about on my block, potentially depending on how bad that it actually ate into the cylinder walls, is actually having to sleeve it versus having it recoated, or trying to clean it up and then it not have enough material there to actually do it safely. So yeah, definitely some really, really cool stuff. I think it's just crazy that they literally V10 like Audi, Lamborghini, 5.2 engine blocks in-house, all billet. It's crazy. All right, so this is their little fabrication area. You can see this is kind of how they do the twin turbo kits on these Lamborghinis. Basically use the factory exhaust manifolds. They have a flex section right here, and basically V-bands, and then they hang them off of the exhaust hangers. So they make jigs for most of the cars that they've actually worked on, like let's say Huracan, Gallardo, Performante, you know, all that different type of stuff. So that way, if a customer is getting ready to come in and they know they're going to build, you know, Performante, they could already just kind of get everything off, get it welded up, get it coated, and so that way that the car's not basically down for a long time. So yeah, you can see some of the jigs. They got tons of stainless tubing. You can see they're working on some intercooler pipes, or not intercooler, water boxes and stuff over here too. So on these cars, you have to do the water to air in the back and basically run water lines up front to a cooler. Yeah, this is one of their in-house water tanks. This has like a CNC machined actually top to it, and so it's nice, and you know, don't have any issues with the flange. But yeah, this is just it's just insane, like the tools and all the stuff that they actually do here. And like literally, you look around, there's nothing in here other than Lamborghinis, and just a bunch of crazy parts. I mean, just flanges, fittings, just crazy. This is like a car guy, like fabricator's dream. Like, I would love to just have this shop, and then, I mean, I don't want to pay for the shop, but I wish I had the shop. This is just, it's nuts. So this is a LP Gallardo, and you can see that's their billet intake manifold. Same throttle bodies that I have, they're just polished, and then this is their water to air intercooler. You can see dual blow-off valves, all the water lines and everything running. And just look back down in there, twin turb skis, and most of the exhaust come right out factory location. You just look through there and you just see them turbos. It's crazy. Like I said, this is pretty much factory exhaust manifold. Nobody really does it any differently. Everybody pretty much just uses these, get the cats, and then just make the correct V-band flange for it. All right, so this is their in-house dyno room, which is really convenient to have their own dyno. So they dyno these things in rear-wheel drive, just because if they make over, you know, a certain amount of horsepower, they start doing a bunch of crazy stuff on the dyno, kind of wanting to walk off there. So you can see they got some fresh air plumbing from the ceiling, and then it basically comes out here, and then I don't know if they open the door or like how they do it with the neighbors, but this thing's pretty crazy. Freaking goals, it's just crazy. This whole thing is just insane. Eventually, mine's probably gonna sound like that with some little spoolie boy things on the end, hopefully. So that is going to be a wrap for this video. Again, I really appreciate the guys over here at Dallas Performance for letting me into their shop and basically tearing this thing completely down for me and kind of giving me the, you know, I feel like the best place to go to kind of get the insight on what it's actually going to take to rebuild this, or whether it's going to make more sense to actually just get a whole nother engine. So crankshafts are looking like they're going to be about 5,000, somewhere in there is kind of the guesstimates that we've got so far, plus all the other stuff to go into rebuilding it, machining it, and stuff like that. So if you guys could be sure to follow Dallas Performance on Facebook, Instagram, and check out their website. Again, they do some insanely crazy builds. And if you guys have a Lamborghini and you want to get it twin turboed, this is definitely your place to go. Or you know, maybe not now, but in 10 years, this might be where you need to go. So this is definitely kind of life goals type of thing. This type of shop. This thing is crazy. And yeah, you guys are gonna have to let me know in the comment section below what you guys think I should do with this thing. Should I just buy another engine? Should I go full send, fully sleeved billet block?
Question is, we gotta fund it first.
That is the other thing. So it's not like like we blew up a Civic and you could get a $700 engine from the junkyard and go make 600 horsepower. It's like you got to get a $5,000 crankshaft that you put in your $20,000 engine, you know, to maybe go make some power. So yeah, again, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you guys like these videos, if you like the R8, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe and hit that little notification bell to be the first people to know when I upload a video of this thing. So see you later, time.
Later.